My ex-husband, Daniel, used to be deeply in love with his secretary, Sophia. To marry her, he turned his back on his parents, our young daughter, and even relinquished his claim to a $1 billion family fortune. However, it seems that woman wasn't entirely satisfied with what she gained. Lately, she had taken to showing up at my company almost every day, causing scenes and shouting accusations. He was on the phone with some woman all night yesterday, she'd proclaimed loudly in the lobby. Was that woman you? Didn't you two already get divorced? Why are you still involved with him? She would continue, her voice rising. Let me make this clear. I am the one he loves the most. Not you, his ex-wife, and not any younger, prettier girl he might meet. None of you can compare to me. I would observe her dramatic outbursts, often choosing to remain silent for a long moment. People often need to cling to the belief that they are the unique exception, the irreplaceable one, just to feel a sense of security. But feelings can shift rapidly, and life has a way of cycling through patterns. She had been the other woman who successfully lured away someone else's husband. How could she be so certain that no one else would eventually follow the same path she had paved? One afternoon, just as I parked my car near the entrance of my company building, I saw Sophia stride inside. I watched her go in and then quietly followed her into the lobby. Hello, Sophia demanded at the front desk. I need to see the boss of your company. Good afternoon, ma'am, the receptionist replied politely. Our chairwoman hasn't been coming into the office much recently. Then it's not her I'm looking for, Sophia clarified impatiently. I'm looking for a young woman named Maya. Hello, ma'am, the receptionist repeated calmly. Do you have an appointment scheduled with Miss Maya? No, I don't need an appointment to see her, Sophia retorted sharply. Just go tell her that Sophia is here to see her. I'm sorry, ma'am, but company policy requires an appointment. I said I don't need one, Sophia interrupted loudly. Just go tell her. Are you deaf or something? That woman Maya seduced my husband. I'm here to confront her face to face. You heard me, so don't pretend you didn't. I couldn't listen to any more of her baseless accusations. I stepped forward from where I had been observing. Just call security, I instructed the receptionist calmly. Don't waste any more time engaging with her. In the future, anyone causing this kind of disturbance should be immediately considered a troublemaker and handled by security. I said this clearly and started walking towards the elevators, but Sophia lunged forward and grabbed my arm forcefully. Maya, it's only been 2 months since your divorce and you still haven't given up on him? Tell me, where have you hidden my husband? You used to be the mistress and now you're the one feeling betrayed? I replied slowly, deliberately speaking loud enough for everyone at the front desk area to hear clearly. What are you trying to say? Sophia looked incredulous, her eyes wide as if I genuinely owed her some sort of apology or explanation. Are you gloating because you think you've won? She continued her tirade. Maya, Daniel left you all his money. Why can't you just let him go? Are you really that desperate and cheap? I felt a strong urge to slap her across the face but managed to restrain myself. My eyes flickered down, noticing the slight but definite bulge of her belly beneath her clothes. I thought you possessed at least a shred of dignity, I said coldly, but it appears I overestimated you. Those slaps I gave you outside the civil affairs office the day our divorce was finalized clearly didn't leave a lasting impression, did they? Sophia's face flushed crimson, and tears welled up in her eyes. Maya, you must be feeling incredibly pleased with yourself right now, aren't you? You have the child, Daniel isn't taking my side anymore, and even his parents openly favor you. They even handed over the entire company to you. You must be so smug you can hardly contain your grin. I looked at Sophia with undisguised disdain. What's the matter? Haven't you two only been officially married for about 2 months? Has his heart already wandered elsewhere? I paused, letting my words sink in. If you're just here trying to stir up trouble, I suppose I can understand that. You seem both foolish and shameless. But if you genuinely believe that I still harbor any feelings for that scumbag Daniel, or that I somehow want to reconcile with him, then there's really nothing more I can say to you. My only advice is for you to recognize the reality of your situation and stop making a complete fool of yourself in public. I met her gaze steadily. Sophia, I don't look back. Regardless of how good Daniel might seem in your eyes, He crossed lines that can't be uncrossed. I wouldn't give him a second glance now. Do you honestly think I would care about a man like that? I don't believe you, Sophia insisted vehemently. Don't try to act so indifferent and detached. The only people who buy that act are Daniel's parents. She glared at me, her eyes narrowed. If Daniel isn't with you, then tell me, where is he? Some woman was on the phone with him practically all night yesterday. Can you swear on your life it wasn't you? Can you? I scrutinized Sophia's increasingly agitated state. She was being completely unreasonable. Look, I said firmly, this isn't some television drama. I don't have the time or inclination to play these games with you. I'm extremely busy and have important meetings to attend. If you don't leave the premises immediately, I will call security. Alternatively, I added with a touch of sarcasm, if you feel your personal drama requires a larger audience, you can go outside, turn right, and head towards the main commercial street. You'll probably find plenty of people there willing to watch your antics. Everyone enjoys a bit of public spectacle. I reached for my phone to call security, but just as I did, Sophia suddenly stumbled backward, clutching her stomach with a pained expression. I frowned, immediately suspicious. Are you trying to stage an accident to frame me? Don't flatter yourself, Sophia retorted, her face contorted with stubborn defiance despite her apparent discomfort. Good, I replied, feeling a measure of relief. Then I advise you again to stop causing trouble here. There are surveillance cameras covering every angle of this lobby. From the moment you walked in until now, I haven't laid a single finger on you. I hesitated to call security immediately, unsure of what stunt she might pull next. Unexpectedly, Sophia let out a sneering laugh. Let me tell you, Maya, stop pretending to be so noble and virtuous. You refused to initiate the divorce yourself, didn't you? You deliberately made Daniel and his parents handle it, letting him take all the public criticism. Isn't that just because you share a daughter with him? She leaned closer, lowering her voice slightly, but ensuring I could hear. But now, it's not just about your daughter, Lily. Are you quite certain about that? I asked calmly, not taking her bait seriously. She was behaving like a desperate clown. Regardless of how many children Daniel might father elsewhere, the only legally recognized heir, the only one who mattered in the eyes of the family and the business, was my daughter. I was absolutely certain of that fact. I've stated this clearly before, I continued, my voice steady. Whatever rightfully belongs to my daughter cannot be taken away by anyone else. No matter what unfolds, whether Daniel and I are divorced or not, Lily's position and inheritance will only strengthen, never diminish. You only have a daughter, Sophia countered smugly. But I'm pregnant with a son. I paid for a private test to confirm it. For wealthy families like Daniel's, sons are always valued more than daughters. Otherwise, Maya, do you seriously believe your daughter will inherit the entire Song family estate? Don't be naive. Even if Daniel's parents favor your daughter for now, what happens when my son is born? Do you think you and your daughter will continue to enjoy such favor then? Once Daniel and I bring our son home to the family estate, who do you think Daniel's parents will ultimately love more? Your daughter or my son? I took a deep, calming breath. You and Daniel both seem remarkably old-fashioned in your thinking, I observed coolly. It's no wonder you two ended up together. And, quite frankly, you both come across as rather pathetic. Seeing the unmistakable pride on Sophia's face as she spoke about her unborn son, I realized she likely wouldn't risk using him in a scheme to frame me. That was a small relief. Otherwise, if she somehow managed to get injured at my workplace or even during her commute here, explaining the situation could become incredibly complicated. I am completely finished with Daniel, that cheating lowlife, I stated unequivocally. I genuinely don't care about his current circumstances or how his life turns out. As for you, since you've effectively taken my former place, I suggest you simply stay out of my affairs. You're married to him now, so stop obsessing over me and clinging to him, Maya. Sophia seemed stuck, repeating those lines like a broken record. And let me reiterate, she added defiantly, whether it's you, his ex-wife, or some young, attractive girl he might meet, none of you can replace me in his heart. Daniel only loves me. He gave up everything for me back then. Gave up what exactly? I interjected, glancing pointedly at Sophia and finishing her sentence for her. For you, he abandoned his aging parents, his own 1-year-old daughter, and $1 billion inheritance. Sophia's face contorted, looking even more strained than before, yet she forced out, "You got that right. I am the one he truly loves." "If he loves you so profoundly," I countered logically, "then why isn't he by your side right now? Why are you here, harassing his ex-wife about his whereabouts?" "Sophia, if you're so utterly convinced of his unwavering love, why are you even here questioning me? Doesn't your confidence extend to knowing where your beloved husband is at all times?" I pressed further. "You two seemed so passionately in love, committed all those disgraceful acts together, and even conceived a child out of your affair. Yet now, less than 2 months after officially tying the knot, you're already seemingly going your separate ways and accusing each other?" Sophia looked ready to physically strike me, her hands clenched into fists. I simply rolled my eyes at her display of temper. "Don't get so worked up," I advised calmly. "Aren't you pinning all your hopes on marrying into a wealthy family because of the son you're carrying? Don't jeopardize your only leverage by losing your composure. After all," I added pointedly, "it's your precious son we're talking about." Just then, a figure walked briskly through the entrance. It was Daniel. Finally, he had arrived. I had discreetly asked someone to call him while I was still in my car, telling him to come and retrieve the troublemaker from my lobby. I had absolutely no desire to engage further with irrational people or witness any more of their public melodrama. "Sophia, what on earth are you doing here?" Daniel demanded as he approached her. "You have some nerve asking me that," Sophia shot back immediately. "Who were you talking to on the phone for so long yesterday? And why weren't you in bed when I woke up this morning? Did you sneak off to the old family house? Did you secretly meet with Maya?" "Stop causing trouble, Sophia. We can talk about this at home, okay?" Daniel pleaded, lowering his voice. "What is the point of airing all our private issues here in her office lobby for everyone to witness?" He tried to take her arm gently. "Can we please just settle this privately at home?" I simply stood aside, observing the unfolding domestic drama with detached interest. "Let go of me." Sophia violently shrugged off Daniel's hand. "I want to say it right here, right now. Daniel, don't even try to cover this up. Tell me the truth. Was it her on the phone with you last night? Did you go see her?" "Are you completely out of your mind?" Daniel retorted, shaking her off again, clearly frustrated. "Why do you insist on making such a scene? Does it give you some kind of perverse thrill? How could I possibly still be in contact with Maya? Do you honestly think she would even allow it?" "Then tell me," Sophia persisted, her voice rising again. "Who were you talking to all night? This is the absolute last time I'm asking you. Tell me right now." "I already told you I don't want to talk about it," Daniel snapped back. "If you want to continue making a spectacle of yourself, then feel free to stay here and do it alone. I don't want any part of this." Daniel turned abruptly and started walking towards the exit. Sophia quickly ran after him, wrapping her arms around his waist from behind. "Fine, fine, I believe you," she cried out. "Just please don't be mad at me anymore. Let's stop fighting, please. It was so incredibly difficult for us to finally be together. Promise me, Daniel. Promise we'll live happily together from now on, okay?" She loosened her grip around his waist, but clung tightly to his hand, her expression a mixture of desperation and frustration. "Daniel, even if it was Maya on the phone with you last night, I'll accept it, all right? Just don't be angry with me." Sophia was clearly trying to backtrack and appease him, but Daniel wasn't taking the bait. Instead, he forcefully pulled his hand away from her grasp again. "I have explained this enough times. I told you it wasn't her, but you still refuse to believe me. What more do you possibly want from me?" He paused, running a hand through his hair in exasperation. "And—" he started, then stopped himself. "Forget it. Work is already stressful enough without you adding to it constantly. You're pregnant and not working. Talking to you about these pressures is pointless anyway. Sophia, if you truly don't trust me, then maybe you should just literally tie me up at home." "Daniel!" Sophia screamed his name, her voice cracking with emotion. "What are you trying to say? Is it really that difficult for you to just agree with me for once? Don't forget we haven't even been married for 2 whole months, and you're already treating me like this. Do you think that's fair?" "Idiot," Daniel muttered under his breath, glancing back at her with contempt before hurrying out of the building. It was obvious he couldn't bear to stay a moment longer. It was likely a matter of pride. Back when he used to accompany me to my office, he did so with the status of a company executive and the acknowledged husband of the heiress. He was treated with deference and respect, recognized by everyone from the front desk staff to the cleaning crew. Now, in their eyes, he was merely a source of gossip, a cautionary tale. Neither my family's company nor his own family would acknowledge him anymore. He had effectively been disowned by both sides. It truly was astonishing to witness his downfall. When I had been pregnant with our daughter Lily, Daniel couldn't wait to make his relationship with Sophia official. He disregarded his parents' desperate pleas and advice, abandoned his wife and newborn child, and willingly gave up his substantial inheritance. He subjected himself to public humiliation, loudly boasting to anyone who would listen about how wonderful his secretary was. "I can give up everything else," he declared repeatedly, "but I absolutely must be with her. What's the point of living if I can't be with the person I truly love? Living in this loveless, money-obsessed family has been my greatest misfortune." He even callously stated, "I don't need my daughter. Sophia is pregnant now, and I'll have another child soon." He repeated these sentiments countless times. Seeing his grand declarations crumble into this pathetic mess now was almost laughable. A small crowd of employees still lingered nearby, drawn by the commotion. I addressed them with a calm smile. "Everyone, please return to your workstations now. I'll be sure to inform you the next time a similar performance takes place." My attempt at humor drew a few nervous chuckles. "Let's get back to work." I walked over to the front desk. "The next time those individuals show up causing a disturbance," I instructed the receptionist firmly, "just call security immediately. If they refuse to leave or continue to disrupt operations, don't hesitate to call the police. Don't let them off easily just because they appear mentally unstable." The receptionist nodded, smiling slightly. "Understood, Miss Maya." I added one more request. "Also, please make me a copy of the surveillance footage from all the cameras in the lobby, specifically covering the time period of this incident earlier. I had plans for that footage." "Big plans?" My best friend, Chloe, suddenly materialized beside me, seemingly out of nowhere. I chuckled. "I'm keeping it as potential warm-up content for my future live streaming endeavors." Chloe burst into laughter. "Sounds like a brilliant idea. If you do, I'll definitely be your #1 hype girl." Chloe was actually here to discuss arrangements for a business dinner we were attending together later that night. We had grown up together, our families lived close by, and our respective companies frequently collaborated, making us exceptionally close friends. That evening, Chloe and I arrived at the upscale event venue. We didn't require formal invitations, as it was a joint affair co-hosted by our family's companies. After dutifully mingling and exchanging pleasantries with some recent business partners, my eyes unexpectedly landed on Daniel across the crowded room. I was momentarily stunned. How did he get in here? I quickly double-checked the guest list mentally. There was absolutely no invitation issued for him. Both our families were well aware of the situation. There was no conceivable way either side would have sent him one. "No idea," Chloe murmured beside me, following my gaze. "He probably just managed to slip in somehow. With all the high-profile resources and potential investors gathered here tonight, he wouldn't miss an opportunity like this to network or pitch for funding." As Chloe spoke, she suddenly gripped my arm tightly. "Speaking of unexpected appearances, look who I see over there." Following her pointed gaze, I saw her fiancé, Adam. He was standing at a distance, holding a glass of wine and seemingly blocking the path of a woman. The tension between them was palpable, suggesting some unresolved history. "That's Adam's first love, Kara," Chloe sighed softly. "She just recently returned from abroad." "Another familiar scenario," I commented dryly. "Is he falling back in love again?" "He claims he hates her now," Chloe replied, though her tone lacked conviction. "Who knows if that's actually true? Saying you hate someone often sounds disingenuous, doesn't it? It's incredibly difficult to completely forget someone you once loved deeply." I sighed in response. "You need to be cautious, Chloe." Adam was an old friend of Daniel's, but his life had been far from straightforward. Born into a wealthy family, he had tragically been lost by a nanny during childhood and was only located and reunited with his biological family when he was 20 years old. I had heard that shortly before his family found him, he had suffered a serious illness. During that difficult time, his first love, Kara, had abruptly left him and fled overseas practically overnight. It was only later discovered that the hospital had initially misdiagnosed his condition. Not long after this tumultuous period, his birth parents found him and promptly arranged his engagement to Chloe. While Chloe and I were quietly discussing Adam's situation, Daniel had already moved to a more secluded corner of the room, standing near a row of beverage dispensers, with a woman I recognized as Miss Evans, a prominent female boss from out of town. There was a large, ornate chandelier hanging above them, but some decorative partitioning partially obscured their location, making them less conspicuous. People might have noticed them, but in this setting, everyone maintained a certain level of decorum. No one would openly gossip or point fingers. Except, of course, for Chloe and me. We both shared a mischievous streak. We even briefly considered casually circling around to try and eavesdrop on their conversation, but that would have been far too obvious. Instead, Chloe and I pretended to be selecting desserts and positioned ourselves near a table laden with cakes. While not the ideal vantage point, it was sufficient for someone like me with reasonably sharp hearing and eyesight. "Aren't you going to introduce me to Mr. Peterson now?" Daniel asked Miss Evans, sounding slightly impatient. "Can we go over and talk to him?" "What's the hurry?" Miss Evans replied smoothly, gently patting Daniel's hand. "Let's have a few more drinks first. We need to be observant, Daniel. Let the real heavyweights have their time with Mr. Peterson first. Look over there," she gestured subtly. "He's completely surrounded right now. We can watch the big shots secure their deals and then follow up afterward. Just getting acquainted, making an impression, that's good enough for tonight. If we rush over there now, Mr. Peterson might not be receptive to talking with us yet. Let's wait until he's finished with the current crowd." "But you told me last night on the phone that you and Mr. Peterson are really close," Daniel insisted, a hint of desperation in his voice. "Yes, I did say that," Miss Evans conceded. "But sometimes, Daniel, while we might remember the big shots fondly, they might not necessarily feel the same reciprocal connection. Even with established good relationships, you can't afford to be too pushy or presumptuous. I understand what you're thinking," she continued patiently. "You desperately want investment for your new company, but so do many other people here tonight. Why do you think you have a particular edge over them?" She paused, her tone shifting slightly. "All right, enough arguing for now." Miss Evans, a somewhat chubby woman with darker skin but impeccably dressed in luxurious attire, patted Daniel's hand again reassuringly. "Young man, don't be so hasty. Haste rarely leads to success. I am on your side, aren't I? Later tonight, I'll book a private room here at the venue and invite Mr. Peterson to join us for a quiet chat. You can bring up your proposal directly then." "But the event will likely end quite late," Daniel countered worriedly. "Mr. Peterson is an extremely busy man. He might not agree to come." "So what if he doesn't?" Miss Evans replied nonchalantly. "Even if he declines, we can still chat amongst ourselves. I'm relatively new to investing in Crestwood City. Although I might not be intimately familiar with the local business circles yet, I've been in the business world long enough to have accumulated some valuable experience. And even if your company isn't exactly top tier, and your current business skills aren't fully polished," she added frankly, "having grown up here means you possess an innate understanding of the local environment, which is an asset." Miss Evans picked up a glass of wine and handed it to Daniel. When he hesitated to take it, she stepped closer to him, a practiced smile on her face. "What's that little smudge on your face?" she asked, leaning in and lightly brushing something off Daniel's cheek with her fingertips. Chloe stifled a chuckle beside me. "Looks like Daniel is receiving some rather hands-on advice." From our particular angle, the interaction could easily be misinterpreted as overly intimate. From where I stood, they appeared quite close. Beneath the subtle distance maintained, the woman's familiar touch made Daniel look almost like a young, troubled protege receiving guidance. But I knew it was likely just a trick of perspective. Daniel's family had built their fortune in the media industry, and I had spent enough time on various film and television sets as a supervisor to understand how different camera angles and viewpoints can create misleading impressions. Based on my assessment, there was probably still a respectable physical distance between them. However, that hand definitely made contact with Daniel's face. Otherwise, he wouldn't have visibly flinched and stiffened the way he did. Daniel's body tensed noticeably, and he reluctantly took the drink offered by Miss Evans, frowning as he quickly downed the contents. As soon as he set the empty glass down, his eyes suddenly darted across the room and locked directly onto mine. Daniel swiftly turned his head away, avoiding my gaze. Miss Evans, noticing his abrupt movement, followed his line of sight and looked directly in my direction. At this point, simply pretending I hadn't seen them was no longer a viable option. I gestured to Chloe, and together we walked purposefully towards them. I raised my glass slightly in greeting towards Miss Evans. "I've heard so much about your expertise in business, Miss Evans," I said smoothly, "and I'm delighted to finally have the pleasure of meeting you in person. I sincerely hope tonight's banquet hasn't disappointed you." I deliberately emphasized my role as one of the hosts of the event. She smiled warmly, the expression causing wrinkles to fan out around her eyes. "You're far too kind, Miss Maya, such a remarkably young and promising businesswoman. Like father, like daughter, as they say." I took a polite sip of my drink, maintaining a gracious smile. "Not at all, Miss Evans. I'm merely benefiting from my father's established reputation and hard work. There is still so much I need to learn. My perspective remains quite narrow compared to seasoned professionals like yourself. I hope there will be opportunities to learn from your experience in the future." Miss Evans was known for being a straightforward and direct person. While her facial features weren't conventionally friendly, in fact, she could appear somewhat fierce at first glance, she commanded immense respect within the broader business community. I had heard stories of how she built her substantial business empire entirely from scratch, starting back when the internet was nascent and information wasn't as readily accessible. After graduating from college, she bravely launched her own company. She was known for being both incredibly tough and remarkably flexible in her dealings. Her early entrepreneurial years were reportedly far from peaceful. She apparently faced challenges from certain shady elements attempting to disrupt her operations. Although it wasn't akin to dealing with organized crime syndicates of the past, navigating those obstacles still required considerable shrewdness and resilience. She possessed no influential connections or advantageous family background. It was said that both her parents had passed away when she was young, and she was raised solely by her grandfather. Considering her challenging beginnings, I genuinely admired her strength and tenacity. Putting aside the slightly awkward scene I had just witnessed tonight, her accomplishments were undeniable. She had meticulously grown her business step by step, eventually achieving the capability to establish a significant presence here in Crestwood City, proving that her years of relentless effort had not been in vain. Such a savvy and accomplished businesswoman was precisely the kind of person I wanted to engage with professionally. Anyone from whom I could potentially learn something valuable was someone I was willing to get to know better. Ultimately, accumulating business knowledge and skills would only benefit me. "You're too kind, Miss Maya," Miss Evans repeated. I gently interrupted her polite demurral. "There's truly no need for such courtesy between us, Miss Evans. If our companies ever have the opportunity to collaborate in the future, I will undoubtedly need to learn a great deal from your expertise. You are considered something of a legendary figure in our eyes." Chloe and I continued chatting cordially with her for a few more minutes. Daniel stood awkwardly beside us throughout the conversation, holding his wine glass, looking increasingly uncomfortable. I made no effort to hide my observant gaze, slowly sipping my drink while smiling faintly as I watched him squirm. Seeing him in such an embarrassing and subordinate position, I felt a renewed sense of satisfaction that I had divorced him when I did. When Sophia had stormed into my company earlier, causing that ridiculous scene, she mentioned Daniel spending an entire night on the phone with a woman. There are countless legitimate ways to conduct business, and numerous paths can lead to success. Daniel's situation wasn't so desperate that he needed to resort to such questionable tactics. While he wasn't exceptionally brilliant or naturally gifted in business, he possessed a good education and wasn't a slow learner. He could have chosen a more conventional, steadier path to rebuild his career, but instead, he opted for what he perceived as a shortcut. Since he made that choice, he should have been fully prepared for the potential consequences and compromises involved. "Miss Maya, let me introduce you," Miss Evans suddenly said, gesturing towards Daniel. "This is Daniel. It's his first time attending an event of this nature." "I know," I replied, smiling directly at Miss Evans while letting my gaze linger on Daniel for a moment. There's no need for an introduction. I've met him before. I paused for effect. He's my ex-husband. Oh, Miss Evans responded, nodding slowly. Miss Maya knows him already. That's good then. Her voice trailed off abruptly as the implications of my statement registered. This is your ex-husband? She repeated, her eyes widening slightly. Chloe subtly nudged my hand beside me. I glanced back at her. She maintained a perfectly calm expression, but knowing her as well as I did, I could tell she was suppressing immense laughter. To keep such a straight face in this situation, she must have been practically biting her tongue to stop herself from laughing out loud. Miss Evans' expression was now a mixture of surprise and awkwardness. Daniel, surprisingly, suddenly looked rather smug, as if my acknowledgement somehow validated him. I simply nodded confirmation. Yes. I then gently guided Miss Evans a few steps away, ostensibly to refill our drinks. She seemed visibly uncomfortable. Miss Maya, she began hesitantly, clearly feeling embarrassed. I was a bit muddled earlier. I understood her unspoken meaning perfectly. Please don't be concerned, Miss Evans, I reassured her smoothly. You've only been establishing your presence in Crestwood City for a relatively short time, and you aren't intimately familiar with the local social landscape. Daniel hasn't attended many public events recently, so it's entirely understandable that you wouldn't recognize him. He doesn't typically participate in high-profile business activities or make headlines. This, Miss Maya, I am truly sorry. She started to apologize again. I placed my wine glass down on a nearby table. You're being far too polite, Miss Evans. It's truly no significant matter. Please don't worry about it. I paused, then continued in a more serious, confidential tone. However, I do feel I should share something with you regarding Daniel. We divorced because he was unfaithful to me. He insisted on being with his secretary, disregarding the pleas of his parents, the well-being of our child, and the future of his family legacy. He adamantly insisted on marrying that woman. I paused again, letting the information sink in. And now, considering this recent drama, I gestured vaguely back towards where Daniel still stood. I believe it speaks volumes about his fundamental character. It might be prudent to avoid getting too involved with him. Miss Evans suddenly understood my underlying message. Is that so? She murmured, her expression thoughtful. Indeed, I confirmed. Because of his actions, his parents ultimately decided to hand over the entire family business operations to me and our daughter. I've even taken over managing some of my own parents' business interests as well. I leaned in slightly. You know how these things work, Miss Evans. Even though Daniel's parents publicly state they no longer acknowledge him, what if one day they suddenly have a change of heart and remember they have a son? That could potentially become quite troublesome, wouldn't you agree? Gossip and rumors in our circles can be incredibly damaging. She nodded repeatedly, her eyes showing comprehension. I smoothly exchanged contact information with her, chatted amiably for a few more minutes, and then Chloe and I excused ourselves, returning to our original standing spot near the dessert table. Chloe seemed slightly perplexed by the entire exchange. Once we were safely out of earshot, she immediately asked, Maya, what was all that about? Didn't you just essentially help your ex-husband out of a potentially very awkward situation? You're overthinking it, I replied, pouring myself another small glass of wine. You know me, Chloe. I'm not the type to hold on to grudges indefinitely or actively seek revenge, right? Once something is over, it's truly over for me. I don't harbor lingering romantic feelings, nor do I feel pity for people without reason. Daniel was handed every possible advantage in life and managed to spectacularly mess it all up entirely on his own. He deserves whatever consequences come his way. Then why did you intervene? Chloe pressed. Well, naturally, I don't particularly want my ex-husband successfully latching onto someone genuinely powerful and influential like Miss Evans, I admitted. True, Chloe conceded. But that's only part of the reason, I continued. More importantly, there are certain potential rumors I'd prefer to avoid. Look around this venue. I gestured broadly. Most of the people here have deep roots in Crestwood City. They are all familiar with each other's backgrounds and family histories. Miss Evans might not know Daniel's full story, but There's no way the established players here don't know exactly who he is and what he did. They might have been wondering why one of the event hosts invited her disgraced ex-husband and what exactly we were discussing so intently earlier. Daniel being taken advantage of by an older businesswoman might be dismissed as a joke. But if that story circulates widely within our social and business circles and eventually reaches his parents' ears, explaining the nuances could become difficult. Even though the elders are furious with Daniel right now, what if they hear persistent rumors that he's struggling terribly and doing poorly? Chloe nodded repeatedly in understanding. I've always known that family ties aren't easily severed completely, she mused. And the elders in his family are known for being quite soft-hearted underneath their stern exteriors. So, I concluded, if I don't want to risk losing the financial stability and corporate control I've worked so hard to secure, I sometimes have to proactively manage certain situations. That makes perfect sense, Chloe agreed. If they were to soften their stance and decide to give Daniel some nominal position back within the company just to help him out, imagine how incredibly annoying it would be to have to see him in the office every day. Chloe clicked her tongue in distaste. And there's one more crucial element, I continued, lowering my voice slightly. I genuinely do want to connect with Miss Evans professionally. Since establishing a relationship will likely require a breakthrough opportunity sooner or later, why not leverage today's situation to do her a small favor? In the future, as long as she remembers this somewhat awkward moment, she'll likely maintain a level of politeness and perhaps even indebtedness towards me. Are you planning to collaborate with her company? Chloe asked curiously. Not exactly a collaboration, I clarified with a slight smile. The difference in scale and influence between our respective companies is quite significant. Unlike Daniel's family situation, we don't need to expend excessive effort networking. Simply extending an olive branch is usually sufficient. My long-term plan, I whispered conspiratorially, is to eventually acquire her company. Oh, Chloe's eyes widened in understanding. So that's the angle? She smiled suddenly. Now I understand why my dad and your uncle have both commented recently on how you seem to be a natural at business after dealing with you on a few projects. No one is born inherently good at business, I countered modestly. You simply get better and more adept with accumulated experience. I genuinely enjoy the challenges of business. It's never dull. You encounter all sorts of fascinating people. Making money is certainly interesting, but so is identifying and recruiting talented individuals. If someone as capable and resilient as Miss Evans were to work for me, it would be a significant achievement and a valuable asset. I paused, reflecting. You know, Chloe, nowadays all major corporations are undergoing transitions. Emerging industries are often touted as the new trend, but I personally think calling it a trend is no longer accurate. Once everyone widely recognizes something as profitable, it usually means those who got in early have already reaped the primary benefits. That particular sector is likely already beginning its decline. I continued, our family businesses cover a broad spectrum of areas. Currently, we have a strong focus on the virtual economy and high-tech sectors. However, I believe in diversification. That's why I'm interested in acquiring Miss Evans' company and potentially hiring her to manage a portion of our tangible economy operations and related high-tech collaborations. She is renowned for her expertise and reliability in tangible industries. If she becomes my partner and employee, it would alleviate many potential concerns and allow me to focus on other strategic areas. I paused again after explaining my rationale. Honestly, I admitted with a wry smile, Daniel isn't entirely wrong about one thing. I do love money. I am undeniably a merchant at heart, but it's my conscious choice. It's certainly preferable to his constant pronouncements about true love, and definitely better than being unfaithful while simultaneously wanting to retain all the privileges and benefits. And yet, he dares to compare himself to me. The sheer nerve. I took another sip of wine. A wise person loves wealth but acquires it through ethical means. Every year, while strategically growing our company's economic footprint, I also significantly increase our charitable contributions. We fund educational programs for children in remote mountain areas and provide ongoing support systems for elderly individuals living alone. Based on this principle alone, Daniel is utterly unqualified to pass judgment on me. he should take a long, hard look at the mess he's made of his own life. My parents ensured I received the best possible education and exposure to the world from a very young age. Starting from my college years, they actively mentored me, teaching me the intricacies of business firsthand. They indulged my interests, allowing me to pursue even the most expensive hobbies, and readily supported any project idea that captured my attention, investing substantial sums simply to instill in me the crucial lesson that you often have to give significantly to gain substantially. They provided me with opportunities that far surpass those available to many others. I effectively stand on my parents' shoulders, allowing me a broader perspective on the world. The purpose of all this investment was so that one day I could become someone truly capable and accomplished, so that the vast resources spent on my upbringing wouldn't be wasted, but rather transformed into a lens through which I could view and impact the world, so that one day I could achieve something meaningful with the capabilities I have developed. I possess countless choices and opportunities. I have both the desire and the ability to be a better, more useful person in society. So why wouldn't I strive to maximize my potential? Daniel really isn't good enough for you, Maya, Chloe suddenly remarked, her voice firm. I gently patted her shoulder. Business is akin to warfare, Chloe. You encounter all sorts of people, navigate complex situations. If I were as naive and clueless as Daniel, I would have been metaphorically killed in this arena many times over by now. No wonder Daniel's parents were always hesitant to entrust the company's future entirely to him. We've talked enough business for now, I sighed. I'm feeling a bit tired. I glanced around the room, and just in time, it looks like some more personal drama is unfolding over there. Chloe's fiancé, Adam, was forcefully dragging his first love, Kara, towards a more secluded outdoor area near the venue's hot springs. The show's starting, I murmured to Chloe. Let's go watch. We discreetly followed Adam and Kara. He was roughly pulling her along, and they ended up near the edge of the steaming hot spring pool. Adam, let go of me, Kara hissed, trying to wrench her arm free. Do you have any idea what you're doing? Do you realize this event is hosted by your fiancé's family? There are influential people everywhere, all kinds. What if someone sees us like this? Kara, Adam replied harshly. For someone as heartless as you, I never thought you'd actually express concern for my reputation or well-being. Don't get the wrong idea, Kara snapped back. I'm merely protecting my own reputation. Besides, I'm already married now. I have a husband. Can you please just stop bothering me? Chloe immediately started snapping pictures discreetly with her phone. I thought the confrontation might end there, but then something even more shocking occurred. Chloe's fiancé, Adam, suddenly pulled Kara into a forceful embrace, holding her tightly by the waist and began kissing her passionately. They kissed for a surprisingly long time before Kara finally managed to push him away, her voice hoarse and trembling. Don't you already have a fiancé? Why are you messing with me like this now? Adam, however, relentless, pushed Kara against a nearby pillar, attempting to kiss her again. This time, Kara's resistance seemed to crumble, and she transitioned from passive victim to active participant, wrapping her arms around Adam's neck and returning his kisses with equal fervor. Chloe quickly typed a message on her phone and showed the screen to me. I was just about to step in and tell Adam to stop being such a jerk and leave her alone. Turns out, they're both completely into it. I was trying to remain focused, half distracted by reading Chloe's messages, while simultaneously recording the entire scene unfolding before us on my phone. This was all valuable evidence. Even though Chloe hadn't actually married the jerk Adam yet, meaning a broken engagement wouldn't yield significant financial compensation, this proof of infidelity could serve as a potent bargaining chip in future business negotiations or disputes. From my vantage point, I could clearly see Adam's hand resting possessively on Kara's stomach. You can't fool me, Kara, he murmured intensely. You still love me. I don't care if you're married. And I know that loser husband of yours keeps failing at his startup ventures. That's because I've been actively sending people to sabotage his efforts. How about this? He proposed conspiratorially. You give me a child, the child we almost had, and I'll agree to leave that pathetic loser alone. Deal? He added, his voice laced with bitterness. We almost had a child together once, remember? But you got rid of it. I couldn't believe the audacity of what I was hearing. We had recorded more than enough incriminating evidence. Chloe and I were just about to slip away quietly when we heard raised voices approaching from nearby. Daniel, how could you possibly do this to me? I had to call you literally 1,000 times before you finally picked up your phone. Are you really that busy? It was Sophia's shrill voice. Sophia, are you completely crazy? Daniel retorted, sounding exasperated. If you absolutely had to cause another scene, couldn't you have picked a more appropriate location? Do you have any idea what kind of high-profile event this is? Everyone who matters in Crestwood City society is here tonight. I am here trying to conduct crucial business, not for pleasure. Why do you insist on acting so irrational all the time? But you specifically told me you were working late at the office tonight, Sophia accused him tearfully. How come you're actually here at a fancy dinner party? Do you ever tell me the truth about anything? Can we please just not do this right now? Daniel pleaded, his voice strained. Can't we just have a calm conversation for once? Sophia, why do you always have to be so overly dramatic about everything? Do you even realize, Sophia cried out, that I almost fell down the stairs at home earlier today? I just missed hitting the ground by inches. But you're fine now, aren't you? Daniel dismissed her concern callously. You're still standing here perfectly fine, causing trouble. I cooked fish soup especially for you, Sophia continued, her voice choked with tears. I thought you were genuinely working late and I was planning to bring it to your office. But you lied to me. If I don't work, Sophia, what are we supposed to live on? Thin air? Daniel shot back angrily. You know perfectly well that I broke away completely from my family for your sake. My parents don't acknowledge my existence anymore. What more do you possibly want from me? Do you even comprehend the magnitude of what I gave up for you? Billions of dollars in inheritance. Every single share, car, house, and penny registered under my name was taken back by my family. You wouldn't even agree to sell the expensive luxury bags and designer watches I bought for you back then, so what else am I supposed to do? And do I really need your fish soup? His voice dripped with sarcasm. I used to have anything I desired, ate the finest food imaginable, and now you're telling me I need you to bring me a bowl of mediocre fish soup. Was it me who made you give up everything? Sophia shrieked back. Did I force you to abandon your family and fortune? Sophia, Daniel exclaimed, his voice filled with mingled anger and disbelief. If I hadn't given up all of that, how else could I have possibly left my family and legally married you? Did you honestly think I wanted to remain a mistress indefinitely? As long as there's enough money involved, Sophia retorted coldly. I genuinely don't care if I'm labeled a mistress. That's my personal choice. And did I ever explicitly ask you to give up everything for me? That was entirely your own decision, Daniel, not mine. Sophia, Daniel said, his voice suddenly weary. I hardly recognize you anymore. Look at what you've become. What have I turned into, huh? Sophia fired back defensively. Isn't this all ultimately because of you? And look at you. Your hair is always a mess now. You don't even bother to dress properly when you go out anymore, always wearing those baggy, shapeless clothes. Just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you shouldn't make an effort to look decent. What has happened to the sophisticated woman I fell for? And your complexion? Let's not even talk about that. You look pale as a ghost every single day. Don't you know how to take basic care of yourself anymore? Daniel! Sophia lunged at him suddenly, grabbing handfuls of his hair and pulling violently. I've turned into this state because of you. Is this honestly what you think of me now? I regret everything. Why didn't your wife, Maya, slap some sense into me back then? How did I possibly end up with a cheap, worthless man like you? You dare mention Maya's name to me? Daniel snarled, trying to pull free. She has money, intelligence, skills, and comes from a great family. How could someone like you ever possibly compare to her? I deeply regret ever leaving Maya and my daughter for a shrew like you. You're not even a fraction of the woman my wife is. I stood there, utterly dumbfounded by the raw venom in their exchange. Someone like Daniel truly was despicable. Back then, he had practically knelt before me, accusing me of having fallen in love with money, calling me tacky and materialistic, while simultaneously praising his secretary Sophia as gentle, understanding, and pure. I bet he never imagined, just a few short months later, he would find himself embroiled in this ugly, degrading mess with his supposed true love. The irony was almost too much to bear. It was laughable, really. They were both equally disgusting individuals. Sophia had deliberately sent me intimate videos of herself and Daniel during the late stages of my pregnancy, attempting to induce premature labor through emotional distress. Daniel was even worse. While our newborn daughter Lily was fighting for her life in an incubator, he was shamelessly in bed with Sophia. This current disastrous situation was entirely of their own making. They truly deserved each other. Ideally, they should spend the rest of their lives torturing one another. We hadn't even reached the stage yet where they couldn't stand the sight of each other, or where petty household fights escalate into thoughts of violence. I am certainly no saint, and frankly, nothing pleased me more than witnessing these two dogs tearing each other apart. Do you think I'll actually abort this baby now? Sophia spat venomously. I'll make you regret saying those things, Daniel. I will make you regret this for the rest of your life. I'll make absolutely sure you never forget me. Go ahead and abort it, Daniel retorted dismissively. If you don't, I'll actually think less of you. Once I manage to regain my status as heir, and I'll have countless beautiful women lining up, eager to give me a son. And besides, he added cruelly, I already have a daughter from my previous marriage with Maya. Do you honestly think I really need your child? Stop trying to use the baby to threaten me. Chloe and I lingered, listening to their bitter exchange for a few moments longer. When we turned back towards the main event area, Adam and Kara were gone. They had probably overheard the escalating argument nearby and decided to make a discreet exit to avoid getting inadvertently caught up in the drama. Daniel and Sophia's fight continued, their angry voices echoing in the night air, but Chloe and I had heard enough. We decided it was time to leave. About half a month later, Daniel showed up unexpectedly at the old family house. His timing, however, was exceptionally poor. The elders from both his family and mine had taken Lily abroad for an extended vacation. They had only been gone for 3 days, yet Lily's paternal grandparents had apparently already purchased 5 houses for her in various European cities, while my own parents had bought her 3 private islands. It was clear that the two families intended for Lily to be their sole, undisputed heiress. The vast wealth accumulated by both families over generations in Crestwood City would eventually belong entirely to Lily. The greatest hardship my daughter would likely ever face in her life would be deciding whether to have an iced Americano. Coincidentally, the elders from both families had planned to remain abroad for a considerable period. Seizing the opportunity, I decided to give everyone employed at the villa, including all the household staff and servants, an extended holiday. Consequently, no one besides me would know that Daniel had returned to the family estate. More importantly, no one would be present to inform Daniel's parents that he had come back seeking reconciliation. It seemed even fate itself was aligning against him. Daniel stood hesitantly at the massive front gate, looking haggard, unshaven, and utterly unkempt. I was in the process of locking up the villa myself, planning to stay in my apartment near the office for a while. I needed to focus on rushing a critical project and was also heavily involved in the complex process of acquiring Miss Evans' company. Daniel, looking completely dejected and broken, began pouring out his woes to me. He explained that he had been fired from his latest job because Sophia had caused yet another disruptive scene at his office. He then revealed that Sophia had indeed gone through with the abortion and had subsequently become the mistress of some pot-bellied older boss. As he spoke, recounting his misfortunes, Daniel suddenly dropped to his knees on the driveway pavement. Maya, he pleaded, his voice choked with emotion. I know I was terribly wrong. You are the only one who ever truly loved me. Sophia was only ever interested in my money. Please, let's remarry. I'm begging you. Seeing Daniel in this pathetic state, I instinctively took several steps back. Idiot, I murmured, echoing the word he had thrown at Sophia earlier. Just like he had called her, he now embodied the same label. Daniel, however, was relentless in his pleading. Help me, Maya. Please talk to my parents for me. And Lily. I've hardly even held her since she was born. A child needs her father. I couldn't help but frown in disgust. Help you? Help you do what? Scatter your ashes after you die? I quickly walked to my car, got in, and rolled down the window. Go back, Daniel, I advised him coldly. Don't stay in Crestwood City. Everyone here knows your story. Pick a city where no one knows who you are, and just try to survive there somehow. As soon as my parents knew you were planning to come back, they explicitly instructed that the door remain shut to you. They said they wouldn't acknowledge you anymore, and they meant it. You could kneel out here until you die of exposure, and no one inside this house will open the door for you. I started the car engine and sped away without a backward glance. Later, Chloe heard about Daniel's appearance at the house and, concerned despite everything, went to check on the situation. When she arrived, she found Daniel had collapsed unconscious on the driveway. She called an ambulance for him. It seemed that this final rejection finally broke whatever remaining hope Daniel had clung to. He left the hospital shortly after being admitted and departed Crestwood City altogether, without waiting for any further mockery or confrontation from me. He didn't attempt to contact me or anyone else again. At least he retained that small shred of dignity in the end, which suited my purposes just fine. I subsequently had all security footage from the vicinity of the old house, covering the days surrounding his visit, completely destroyed. No one would ever know he had returned, begging for forgiveness. Having tied up that loose end, I returned my full focus to my work. There were numerous contracts demanding attention, many urgent projects to oversee, and the company's operational model required ongoing gradual improvements and refinements. Men, I had learned the hard way, can betray you. Money, however, generally won't, and work, challenging as it might be, certainly won't abandon you. The road ahead is long and undoubtedly complex, but I remain fundamentally myself, navigating it with growing confidence and capability. Daniel, on the other hand, was no longer an heir, no longer a man of status or influence. Perhaps the next time our paths cross, it will be at his funeral.